back on. Silent. That woman, bring her back on.
Good evening,
Silent
everybody.
addictions. Bring her back on.
Good.
Because
I
there's
will
other
do.
women, I'm going to talk to them because they're going to bring another perspective. So
Okay.
come back.
Right.
Come back.
Okay.
Go on.
Right. We're recording. So good evening, everybody. Welcome to this evening's session on youth addiction. Well, that's a fairly generalized term. And what is addiction? What is dependency? Well, I had to look it up. And it's interesting. The medical profession will tell you it's all about drugs. The psychological profession will tell you it's all about the brain. And it's basically, we reckon it's a bit of both. However, the big question is, what is your first thought when you think of addiction?
Are we supposed to answer?
No, just think. Just think. I'm going to ask your questions in a minute. And what I'm going to say is that tonight we have Sonia Brown with us. Now, Sonia is a great lady who's got an addiction of her own, which she'll probably tell you about later because we were chatting
You were
about
not
it
meant to
earlier
tell
this
anybody.
afternoon.
You were not
I
meant to tell
haven't gone
anyone.
any further. I haven't gone any further. But rest assured, she's not mainlining heroin. Well, not that I know of, anyway. So Sonia is an absolute great lady who's absolutely passionate about how we can improve the lives of our youngsters. And of course, this is just a small part of it. And what I really want to delve into tonight is what addictions can you think of and how can we actually head them off at the pass? I'm all about prevention. And cure is, if we've actually got to sort of step in and intervene, perhaps that's too late. Or at least it's too late to actually get in there and crack it. Because one addict said to me the other day, once an addict, always an addict. Even if you are in remission. And I thought, actually, that is very profound. So how do we stop people from becoming addicted in the first place? That is a huge question. I'm not sure that we'll get the answer tonight, but the idea is that we are here to discuss that very topic. Sonia, you agreed to this, and thank you so much indeed for coming along. We are really, really pleased to have you. And you and I are going to chat, and I'm going to throw questions.
I'm going to talk to you afterwards because you've got me vulnerable. So I'm going to have to do. I've got to be honest, authentic, and whatever we do discuss today, all the listeners, please bear in mind, we're not perfect, but we're all striving to be better. If that makes sense. Okay.
We're not perfect, but we're all striving to be better. How well put. How well put.
Thank you.
So, Sonia, addiction. What are the top 5 addictions, apparently, research says?
Thank you. Not what I feel, what research says. The top 5 addictions with young people, we're talking about young people, substance abuse, that includes a misuse of alcohol, prescription medication, illicit drugs such as marijuana, cocaine, and heroin. Substance abuse can lead to serious health issues, including addiction, mental health disorders, and even overdose. So, number 1, substance abuse. Write it down. Substance abuse. Number 2, vaping. Vaping and nicotine addiction. So the use of e-cigarettes and vaping devices has surged. We just thought it was trendy, all right, but they're all onto it. Using these devices has surged among teens, and I've heard mothers tell me they caught their children in primary school doing vaping. Okay. I remember it's all in different, you can get in tangerine, raspberry, all these different flavors. So they don't think they're doing anything wrong. The next thing is number 3 is social media. And me and you are going to get into a deeper conversation about that. deep social media and internet addiction. Number 4, gaming addiction. Listen, I met a mother whose son was a was groomed through the PS4 and went to meet the man and was killed, paedophile, everything. So that's number 4. So number 5 was prescription drug misuse, the misuse of prescription medication. Okay, remember COVID. All right. So I'm going to say it again. 1, substance abuse. 2, vaping. 3, social media. 4, gaming. 5, prescription. Okay, go for it. Yeah.
Okay. And which is your favorite?
I don't know, because I've got a thing about gambling. But when you look at all of them, they're all serious abuses. And then when you spoke to me, so I'm going to let you all know, he called me earlier. What would you body? What? Come on.
Oh, yeah, sure. Body dysmorphia disorder.
Yeah. Right. So my English ain't good because I come up in a Jamaican family, so we have to practice our English. So anyway,
I had to look up the words as well, so don't worry about it.
So my thing about that is you've got all these reality shows. And one thing I knew about the Kardashians, they are a fantastic advertisement. So, oh, your body needs to look like this. And then people are going to Turkey to get their teeth done, to get their eyebrows done. And these people, Brazil, all these women, they want these big butts and they're dying in a thing. Come on now. Come on now. Come on. Now, as a black person, oh, you took the mickey out of us when we had big bum, full lips, and all of that. But all of a sudden, it's trendy. But you know who I really, really like? Katie Price. Oh, but you are going crazy, Katie. You're the original page 3 girl. Now, Katie, she don't even look the same. But OnlyFans, Ian, I remember I was trying to tell you, what was this? OnlyFans. Okay,
OnlyFans,
if you've
right?
got a
Yes.
good body, if you've got sexy lips, big bum, go on it, OnlyFans, and you could get 10 grand a week. You're sexualizing women. And then they worry about the violence against women. And there's nobody. The police can't help us. Our parents can't help us. Society can't help us. Our peer groups can't help us. But yeah, if I got a big body, got full lips, eyebrows, this. Come on. So this is me be controlling. The people in the audience, what do you think? Come in. Let someone speak. Let someone speak. Because we got 5 issues to talk about. Talk about that one. Someone come in from the audience and have a viewpoint.
Okay. I think
Sonia.
hit the nail on the head about the body dysmorphia. What I've noticed a lot in youngsters, particularly girls, but it does apply to boys as well, is this changing the look by enhancing it with Botox or having the lip injections.
Yeah.
This was unheard of before, but now it seems to be a trend. And I think you're right. It referenced the Kardashians, how the sisters changed their body, how there was the man changed into a woman on the Kardashians. It covered it all. So in terms of vaping, you mentioned earlier, that's huge. And I thought that had actually taken a step back, but apparently it's still up there. This vaping, when I'm out and about, I can see teenagers vaping.
I'm going to put a question to you. I'm going to put a question to you. Right. My question to you is, so I'm in the gym, I'm disabled. So what I haven't told anyone, I've got Guillain-Barré. And so I'm learning to walk again. Right. So I'm in the pool. I said, oh, help me in the pool. And the woman was saying her 11-year-old daughter was vaping. I said, well, what did you do? She goes, I beat the hell out of her because she's going back to her roots. And she went, but Sonia, what the frightening thing is, all the kids in her class are vaping. And that's why she did it. Now, as a parent, she could have been vaping for months before she discovered it. What do we do? What do we do? There's so many vaping shops, and now all of a sudden they're reporting on all the Albanians opening barber shops, laundering money and everything. And my hairdresser, she went, you think it's cheap to get your hair cut in an Albanian barber shop? How do we protect our children? Ian, you can't speak. You can't speak, Ian.
I'm going to speak.
It's the women. They got to come in.
I'm going to speak because I'm going to say, Vanessa, you've been waiting very patiently to say something.
Oh, let Vanessa speak then. Yeah, go on.
Nice to meet you all. Nice group.
Hi, Vanessa.
Hi, Sonia. I come to the group as a neuropharmacologist, and then
posh word.
Well, a bit posh, but I've always been interested in the brain. Okay.
Yeah, go on.
I have done my time in education with children because as a job, it's much more interesting than sitting behind a computer and on the telephone, developing drugs. Okay. And I also have a 16-year-old boy who has come to the UK in the last 3 years. He arrived at 13, so full-on teenage years from a country, Switzerland, into the UK. Well, actually, I'm in Scotland. So Scotland.
I love Ireland, Scotland.
Yeah, I love Scotland. Well, you're welcome any day.
I love it.
And I grew up here, so I kind of knew how things are. And this is a very changed country since I lived here.
Yeah. I was going to say, because my brother said to me, we were talking about the Tate brothers, and I'm into Jefferson. Oh God, I can't remember his name, but the Tate brothers. And I said, when I listened to his interview with Piers Johnson, I said, well, I could be listening to a Muslim. So how do you protect your children growing up? And now, because I can't drive, I've got the taxi drivers, and they've got so many problems with the young boys.
Yeah, well, I think continuing, how do you protect them? The society is the way.
Still make them men. We protect them, but still make them men. Go on.
The society is really different from when I grew up here. And as sorry, I haven't got my glasses on, but Mother Sonia was saying about youngsters, the vaping. I have found with my teenager, I've had to communicate, and if you put forward a kind of viewpoint from a medical world, bring in the information about the child's brain development, in a fun way.
But it's important. It's still important.
But also get to know your child. Now, I have a child who processes quite slowly, so he's got certain needs that I have identified, that I've allowed myself to navigate the Scottish curricula. But it means I have been on one huge learning curve for the society here for the teenagers. I don't say it's any easier for Swiss people, but there's perhaps not the. And social media now is everywhere for the children. But when you come down to addictions, there is genetic traits for addiction. Okay.
What do they call it in the faith? Generational curses.
Yeah, and so one has to recognize and get to know, if you're working with children, it's really great to know their backgrounds and to actually identify behind the generational
curses. Let's just call it what it is.
Genetics.
It's not good. So it's a curse. The poor kids don't even know. Go on.
But you're asking what is the cure? Well, I think
we're not ready for that. AI is going to be, all the guys, I've been listening to all the CEOs of all like Tesla, all the big companies, So they all want to live longer. So they're coming up with all these cures to live longer. So we're going to have a digital healthcare, but how does it protect us? The 80%, remember it's 2080.
I have a son who games a lot, and it actually allows him to regulate. Now, in my day, there were not those games.
I know.
It was something that I got hold of. It was a Peter Gabriel, From Heaven to Hell. It was fabulous, but I didn't spend that much time on it. But I could understand how one could immerse oneself into this type of world and be addicted to something that helps you to just relax and regulate. So take another side of life where you got the balance with outdoor activities. There's so fewer outdoor activities that the kids are doing together, which actually generates, and I can recommend a really good book for everybody, because I heard him at an educational...
Recommend.
It's an educational conference. Maybe you've heard about it because it's a Sunday Times bestseller at the moment. It's called DOSE, so dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins. And it's accessible for anybody who's scientific or not.
But can I say something? Right, so all these big leaders, they're all into mathematics and engineering, right? So we know STEM's important, but people aren't reading anymore. And I go to people's house and there's not a dining table. So when do you eat together? And there's not a bookshelf. And I was doing this protest and I went to somebody's house and he opened the door. You could have knocked me out with the smell of weed. So I said to him, he signed it. I couldn't believe he signed it, but he signed it. And I said, can you just make sure I can get to the end of the pathway? Because I don't want to collapse. And I remember phoning the PCSO and I'm like, how the hell do these kids study if the weed smells like that? And then someone else was like, I was so shocked. We don't know what goes on in people's house. Do they read books? My dad used to say, he weren't the best dad, but we all had to read one book a day. And then the bottom of the road, there used to be a bookstore and they were selling books for like 20p, 10p. So there was no excuse for us to read. Tell me, do you go to your friend's house and they talk about the books they read? And then when I got to school, the teacher's like, you're a liar. You could never have read this book. You could never have read this book. Hello, how are we encouraging the next generation to be part of this AI, digital technology, data information world that's coming when people don't read? Come on now. I'm finished.
Yeah.
I'm finished. Let her answer. Ian, let her answer. Come on.
I would like to say something on that.
Okay, go on.
That, yeah.
I love it. Interject. Don't let me have my own way. Interject.
Okay, about reading.
Go.
We've heard too much sayings that, that children take their parents as examples. For example, if they see their mother read or their father, so they like to read. But from my experience, there are people, children, who will grow up eventually to be grown-ups who cannot read. They cannot focus. So it's not about how to force them in a nice way or in a good way to read, but they cannot. They get a heart beat, fast if they read. They get
okay. Let me interject there. I've got friends and their kids are playing on the PS4 or whatever, and they're spending hours playing the games. I said, okay, why don't you teach them to design a game? If they're that good, design the game. But why are they not designing coding?
Yeah, I'm just talking here about reading.
No, darling, yeah. I'm not disregarding your view, but I'm just saying, why are they not reading? Why are they not thinking to design? Why do we always have to be consumers?
Sonia, I think we're going down a rabbit hole here. This is about addiction.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, what's the rabbit hole? What's the rabbit hole? If
we're talking about reading.
About the reading, but the thing is, you're correct, Sonia, when you're saying that children learn behaviours from parents. I've worked a lot with families over the years, for many years. And when I used to do a session, a lifestyle session for the parents, lifestyle session for the children, did the physical activity for the parents, and then the kids. Now, the children would always come to me and tell me what was bothering them. Now, all the children I worked with were above their ideal weight, and they had
That's diet.
silent illnesses that I said earlier.
Yeah.
So, what I found, 99% of the children came to me and they said to me that they wanted one-to-one time with their parent. Now, the two things that came out, they asked if they could sit and have breakfast together,
Oh.
or could they take me out to the park. Now,
can I interject there? Can I interject there? Let me interject.
No, I'm just going to quickly finish this.
No, because I'm going to talk to you. What is the importance of
Sonia,
breakfast for young
Sonia,
kids?
oh, we got two Sonias here.
Ian,
what I'm going to say,
bring me back to that woman. What is the importance of breakfast for young children when they go to school?
They do need the breakfast, because then that gives them the energy for the first class of the day.
Yeah.
Now, but what the point I'm trying to make here is that when you're saying how can we help the children or the young adults with this, I feel is the parents need to be educated, whether that's through the school, yes, through the education system where they're invited in, or as well as the children need to be educated. So somebody's mentioned vapes, etc. It has to be brought up so across the board. So if the children can't get that support from home, they can get it from school. So they're understanding, they're learning like they learn other subjects.
I'm going to interject. I worked for a black newspaper, and I remember the guy, one of the senior salesmen, and he used to say, I used to take the bus to the building, and he said, Sonia, you know, we used to have a pen and we put it in our blazer and everything. He goes, they're smoking weed. He goes, what are they going to learn when they get to school? And then we're like, well, did they have breakfast? Have they got a bookshelf? Come back. Because, you know, to me, because I'm ill and I'm taking the taxis, they're all moaning about their children. They don't know how to help their children. And that's it. Simple. We're in a diversified world. And what is that going to world look like in 5 years' time? Ian,
hello.
Come in and fight for the men.
It's not about fighting for the men, but you bring out a very valid point here. And that is that we're asking parents to help their children, and to a certain extent, a lot of the parents just don't understand that life has proceeded so fast.
It's different. It's so different.
It's so different that it's the parents who can't catch up. And I've got teenage children. I've also got children who are somewhat older. So it's intriguing that I'm actually sort of, I won't say up to date, but it's all, you're right, it's all about parents talking with their children. It's about having time for.
Okay, so based on what you just said, throw it out to the audience. How are they going to react? What do they feel? What questions have they got? It's not just about me and you. Ask them. Come in, audience.
Reese, I love your comment. Do you feel confused when your teenagers speak sometimes? What's this word sometimes?
It's all the time.
That's not quite true. I've learned a huge amount, but I can only guess at some of the wording. But it is about that. It is about the developing of these life skills. It is about providing them with the awareness of what can happen. And Vanessa, you were talking about the teenage brain, and I think it's especially with blokes, and this I can equate to because I was one. Not a bloke, I was a teenage bloke, is that it is hugely difficult sometimes to focus any further than about there. And this can be a good thing, but it leads to risk. It leads to risk taking. It leads to not understanding what can happen if I take a little risk, I get an adrenaline boost. I like that adrenaline boost. I couldn't care about the consequences because I cannot think further than a couple of hours ahead. You know, the word consequences just doesn't enter the vocabulary of some teenagers. And
yeah, but it's a different world, Ian. You know,
it is
like
a
when we
different
were
world,
growing up,
absolutely.
it's a different world because, you know, we would work in, and then when we got our NI card, we could work legitimately. We were always trying to do better, be better. And this generation, I feel, the parents said, I don't want my kids to suffer the way I suffered. I'm going to give them. And it's made their kids weaker. It's made their children weaker.
There is that element, but I think there's
But anyone in the
there are a
audience, do
huge
you want to come back with an
there are a
answer?
huge number of others.
Yeah,
who
well,
will
let somebody in the
consider
audience
others.
come back in
So,
and answer.
Yeah.
We're waiting for you. We're waiting for you.
Children have
don't see.
easier access now to information that we didn't have. I agree with what you're saying from our generation. However, if the parent, I mean, we're living in an economic crisis, you know, so parents are stressed, yeah. So sometimes the children look to get the obviously education from school, but to get more understanding. So I'm not talking about children with bad behavior. I mean, you could have a pupil doing well.
Let me talk about intelligent children who are penalized.
That's what I'm saying. I'm not talking about bad behavior because across the board, children need educated, and I think a child does know right to wrong.
Yeah.
Because
it's a moral
the
compass.
child knows
It's a moral
if
compass.
they're
Who
underneath,
is this? It's a
they
male
shouldn't
ally. You've just jumped in. What are you going to say? You blocked a very intelligent conversation. What are you going to say, Mr. Ally? Hello?
Hello?
Who are we talking to?
This guy's just popped up. I thought he had something to say. So let's go back to you.
No, I don't. Sonia C, carry on, please.
Yeah.
Denise,
So
we'll just come to your point after Sonia.
Yeah, so I'm just saying, I'm not saying it's a bad behaved child that has addictions. It can be across the board. Now, what I mentioned earlier before we started recording, I'm witnessing it in different areas. You mentioned about the body dysmorphia and the eating. So I worked with a young girl, and at the time I worked with her, she was doing ever so well, and it was the parent who wanted the child to I call it drop a dress size. I hate saying losing weight. I hate the word obesity, but wanted the child to lose some weight. So I was working the mind and body, the lifestyles, the activity, but I could pick up that the child had more, there was anxiousness, etc., going up here that was stemming from how the parent acted. So even if
Can I just interject? So I come into this woman called Lena. She's the CEO of Chanel. Okay, so I'm listening to all the CEOs talk, and she was saying she liked maths and engineering, but for an Indian girl, that was just not heard of. And she said, I want to go to uni, and somehow she managed, and it was 48 hours away from her. And you know what her parents said? Oh, you're good looking and you're intelligent. How are you going to get married? That's all they were worried about, her getting married. And then she got into Chanel, and she said, when she looked into the life of Chanel, how good it was. And I meet so many women, and they say they downbeat themselves so their husbands feel okay and don't feel threatened because they're intelligent, they've got a better job than them, they're this. So what are you feeding into the children? That's the point
I'm trying to make. If I just quickly finish the story, because there's a bit of
sorry.
So I worked with the child, and then when it came to the end, why it suddenly stopped, the child had put on some weight. And when the mother came in, to the house when I was there, and she was asking me the question, so I had to answer because the child was under 16. That upset the child, but the child told me that she had a sore finger at school. Now, when I assessed her, I said, I think you've broke your finger. So I'm not going to do the physical side of things. We're going to do the well-being side of things. So, but then this is where it gets interesting. The mother said to me, there's nothing wrong with her fingers or her hand. She can use her mobile phone constantly, and she was using it all yesterday, etc. So I thought, oh, okay. Anyway, it transpired, by the way, was broken. I was correct. Fingers were broken. So she had to obviously go to hospital to get it plastered. The sessions then ended. So I knew there was the issue there of the parent not listening to the child because the parent was so full of what's going on in her life. Then what happened to last summer, and I'm going to talk about addiction here.
Yeah, I was going to say, how do you bring it back to what Ian's asking?
Back to when I'm mentioning this, the youngster who's now 16 now, she was 15 at the time last year. The mother was still working, the child was left at home. So the child always had this issue around food. It's clearly an addiction. The grandmother gave the credit card and said, your mother's working, you can order in, just use it whenever.
Yeah.
Anyway, it must have been £1,500 was spent on
what?
Just that month, that few weeks off school, £1,500 was spent on buying food that the mother didn't know, pick up on. The grandmother didn't.
Did she eat the food though? Did she eat the food?
Yes. Okay. Yes. So there's an addiction around there. Now, the point I'm trying to make is here, if the parent is too busy listening, where does the child go?
They don't know. They don't know.
So I know you're asking this question at the beginning of the session, what can we do? So this is where of all my experience working with people and different addictions, the third party always helps. It's not the one closest to them.
Okay.
It has to be, so whether that's a teacher at school who's helping, whether it's the pastoral care, whether it's so where the child is actually listened to.
I feel safe. They've got to feel safe. Yeah.
Yes, to feel safe and actually be told the consequences, like you said earlier. They need to know, I think, was it Vanessa that said, taught about the health implications. So somebody has to be there. Now, I think that in terms of schooling, I think teachers, I know there is different, there's counsellors, etc. But I think in the curriculum, there's certain things that have to be covered.
Okay, Ian, bringing it back to you and having control.
Okay, I'm going to.
What are you going to say?
I'm going to ask Denise to come in here because she's been waiting very long and patiently.
Oh, hello, good evening, everyone.
Hello, Denise, and then we'll go to Anna Maria.
I believe that balance is what's needed within these situations, and I think we underestimate how smart our children really are. They're growing up in a completely different environment. Everything's different to what we would know. So we tend to, as parents, I'm a parent as well, we tend to say it wasn't like that in our day. No, it wasn't. This is a different day, and they are growing in a different way. They may not read books in the same way that we do, but the internet, it can be good.
It is dangerous.
It's dangerous. Okay, this is another thing. You said about your parents or what you've heard before. One thing that stuck with me that my mother said is that you can make the child, but you can't make their mind.
Okay, so let me tell you what my dad said.
No, hold
You
on,
can't
hold on.
bring the donkey, the mule
Sonia,
to
please,
the drink. Yeah.
Let
please,
Denise,
just let
Sonia,
Crystal
let Denise
finish,
finish,
please.
No,
please.
I am.
Just let me
I
finish.
am.
So basically, we do as much as we think we can for the children, for our children. However, if it doesn't seem to be what we think they ought to be doing, that's when the shutters go up and the, attitudes and whatever come into play. But the truth of the matter is that if we listen to them a little bit more than just do as I say, not as I,
No, it's
you
about
get a lot more out of them. You get a
Yes,
lot more back from them.
Mm.
They know so much. They know what their rights are. I mean, they just are growing up in a different way. And because it's different to what we're used to, we seem to be judging it a little bit harder. Now, it is an addiction to be on the internet regular. It is an addiction to be gaming all the time. But sometimes that's their escape.
Mm.
So if you allow some of the gaming, but then you manage to introduce something else that balances it out, then we get the best of both worlds and everybody's happy. It's not always easy, but it's possible.
I think
I'm going to come in and I'm going to say to you about gaming. So I met the mother of the child whose son was groomed by the paedophiles on the gaming and everything. As adults, I don't have children, so I depend on my neighbours' children to teach me anything. All right, and when they grow up and they go, I go, oh my bloody hell, who's going to teach me? But the reality is, the world is changing, and we have to keep up. And I'm frustrated because I'm looking at all these youngsters growing up, and I'm like, it's not like when we grew up, we had opportunities, we had choices, we had this. And you're right, we have to learn from them because they're bright, and the teachers can't keep up with them because they don't know them. They're 10 years behind these kids. They're bright. They're bright. But how do we find that balance, as you said, to manage that knowledge, but learn from that knowledge and use it to be forward thinking? Does that make sense?
Forward thinking for who?
Well, how are we going to live? Women have to work longer. We ain't got no pension. We've got to do this. We've got to upskill. We've got to do this. How are we going to forward think?
No, sorry. Forward thinking for who? For the child or the
Ourselves,
parent?
for ourselves. And if we forward think
think-
for ourselves, we forward think for our children.
I think
Okay.
I think it's a case of forward thinking for everybody. Yeah, absolutely.
Precisely. It
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
It is
And-
for us all.
Okay, cool. Anna Maria.
Okay, so I have so many things in my mind, but I'm gonna say some powerful words, if you like. Some powerful words that each concept and the contrast of it.
Yeah, don't do yourself.
But to begin with, for me, the magic solution would be, if you want to have a child or children to begin with, you need to be in love with the children. You need to be in love, in love. When you are in love with your children, it's not, I mean, it's not difficult at all to know what to do, because when you are in love, you would want to be near them, you would want to be their friends, you would want to listen to them, you would want to be present for them. And unfortunately now, people have children because they need to have children, it's part of the marriage or whatever, or they do it with unawareness. And unfortunately also, as this world now is going with this big evolution and this big, I mean, something very scary, we are prone to lose our children, because children love freedom. They love freedom. And that's what word now is giving them, is freedom, and they don't know how to use it. I mean, if there's no one behind them that loves them and that they feel that they trust, they would be dragged to this evil freedom, let's say. So this is in my opinion. So to me, addiction comes when you give children too much freedom because they don't know how to use it. And it's very dangerous when they don't have parents who are in love with them. In love, I emphasize on this word, because when you are in love, the child can feel your energy and then you have leverage on him. So whatever you want, I mean, he will listen to you until he's 25, 27. So he will get regulated by and by, but you will always need to be with him. So they need discipline. They need discipline. They need discipline.
Oh, we love discipline.
We cannot.
We love discipline. Yeah, go. Ian,
yes, we cannot throw them.
I think that's absolutely wonderful. Anna Maria, thank you so much indeed for that. It's a perspective I wasn't expecting, but
a good perspective.
But isn't that wonderful? I mean, that's why we meet. You know, we're here to learn. We're here to enjoy. Vanessa, just coming back to you very quickly with the book that you mentioned, The Dose Effect by T.J. Power.
I like her, you know. I like her, Ian.
Okay, cool. So there you go. I'll put that on the chat so everybody's got it. I did Google it.
Just referring to Anna Maria's value of loving our children, the oxytocin, this hormone which is generated, is very much to do with these connections, loving connections, human loving connections, animal loving connections, using the voice instead of the text messaging. It's powerful and it's diminishing, but we we have to balance, just like Denise was talking about. Yes, and unfortunately, it's the dopamine that's causing so many issues for the young generation. These quick fixes of dopamine, rather than the slower way of obtaining this chemical in our brain, which is old school, how we grew up. You know, we must make our bed, we must come downstairs, we must all eat together, we must.
Unless you sound like my mum.
Do a couple of chores, and then start our day and wait for sisters to get the bus. So there's these gradual steps, but today most of the teenagers are plugged into their phones from the start. They are told numerous times to make their bed, and they can't, they forget, they're distracted.
Can I ask you a question, Vanessa? So I was working with this company, so it's a really senior guy, and he made a comment. He went, yeah, because my mum used to drive me to school. You walked to, your mum drove you to school every day of your life? Yeah. So I came back to my mum and I said, Mum, did you drive me to school? Yeah. I goes, Mum, you're a liar, because I know we had to walk, right? And that was primary school. What's the difference? Vanessa?
We got the bus. We you know.
Oh, guess what? Secondary school, there wasn't a bus. We had to walk over the hill.
But then, in terms of behaviours of children today, and I suppose we've got Sonia, who's working with children every day. I don't work with children every day. I wish I did, but I just can't get a job in this country. Anyway, all to say, there are different profiles, there are different brains, there are more and more neurodiversities coming forward. Those neurodiversities are showing at the baseline less dopamine anyway. So you are really juggling now with brain chemistry and addictions, which in the past we might have had alcoholics in the family.
Gamblers.
We might have had people addicted to running because they just need the endorphins.
Can I jump in? Black community, Black women addicted to bingo.
What? Bingo?
Bingo.
Oh, but
and then with COVID, when we had lockdown, it was online bingo.
Oh, online, so you don't need the community element. But, well, perhaps that's just something that makes everybody come together and community and laugh. But
that's gambling. What are you going to do when you ain't got the money to pay?
Well, the gambling is an issue. It's a brain which, again, has a propensity to overstep. And I mean, we're sometimes all in difficult moments of our lives, and some people turn to vices, addictions.
And that's the addictions. Yeah.
And some people do not. And it really, I think, comes down to your brain chemistry and your genetics. But that doesn't mean that you can't bring people out of that, but there's different ways to bring different people out. And you've got to be very astute today with all these, all the technology and all the behaviors that are around for children, vapes, which are accessible.
So let me jump in. So when I was doing work with the police, one of the things was safeguarding. So there was all these children, young girls, and the boyfriend would say, "Oh, take a picture of your vagina, take a picture of your breasts," and then they take the picture, and they say, "If you don't give us money, we will send it to your family," and then suicide, all sorts of stuff. So I always thought safeguard in school. When we were growing up, no one would ever ask us to take a picture of our breasts. You know, but it's
that's
reality.
Yeah, no, and I've had a son who's come into the UK and seen some of the bullying, the physical bullying, which he probably wouldn't have come across in some other countries. So yeah, I think the UK society is
It's different.
challenged by a lot of stuff in today's teenage or primary years.
Well, my
as
brother
well.
keeps saying, because I keep saying, men don't know how to be men anymore. And my brother says, "Well, look at the Tate brothers." And I said, "Well, I listened to the interview with him and Piers Morgan. And he just sounded like the normal Muslims I talk to every day. The wife can't work. You can't do this. You can't do that." It just sounded regular to me. But then 5 years forward, what is our world going to look like? And Ian, this is when you could come in. What's the tipping point? What's the tipping point?
I don't know what the tipping point is. I'm hoping that we swing from position to position in an awful lot of things. And we'll probably go around the circle again. I think the difficulty we've got is that I think you're right that there's an awful lot of teenagers, particularly, who don't know what they're meant to be. They have little guidance. I think that perhaps a number of reasons for this. One is the lack of men in the teaching profession. I think
you're right.
I think there are not enough people that they can look up to in the time that they are at school, which quite honestly, if you look at the number of hours they're at school, that is quite significant. And there is a difference between men and women. There always has been. There always will be. And to try and blur the edges of that is trying to push us all into one box, which is not really where we're meant to be. So if you try and push men into a box which is effectively designed by women, for women, perhaps, or thinking that because it's the female brain pattern is different from the male brain pattern. It would be exactly the same the other way round. And I think that.
And then you've got to think about the transgender.
I'm not even going.
I know. But remember, they're getting
because
more and
we're
more
talking about
and they're going to talk about that in the school.
But it's a very, very small percentage.
Yeah, but they have a lot of
influence. I know, but the difficulty is that because there's so much information out there, a lot of which is incorrect.
Fake news.
Fake news, absolutely. But if the information's out there, unless the kids actually understand that what they're reading could be fake news, then we've got to teach them to be critical.
So let's throw it out to the audience. Can someone from the audience come in and give their viewpoint, please?
Well, I think Ian's hit the nail on the head in terms of there isn't enough males in the education sector. Personally, my partner works in that sector and it's very much female orientated. So for sometimes to get that male perspective across, it is challenging. And I think children, if they have an absent father, they do need a male figure to help them move forward and to have that different perspective. The girl I mentioned earlier was from a split family, lived with the mother, saw the father now and then, but he would just give her more food. So I do think more male teachers, and I think there has to be a combination of the male and female teachers coming together and working together and having different perspectives. But I do think Denise was right earlier that we have to accept the children know more than us when we were younger, because they're living in different worlds, they're seeing different things, there's more access to things that you could get addicted to.
They're better than us for digital technology.
Oh, digital technology.
Yeah, we're sitting on our laurels. Them kids
yeah.
know more about digital technology, and the artificial intelligence is making so many profiles about us that we don't even know.
But if we make boundaries, or Denise called it balance, I call it boundaries, in terms of a child gaming, yeah, we can have boundaries across food, all different areas of addictions. In terms of the internet, I remember teaching a class, and my age group I started, it was 4 to 10 years. This was one section I did. The 4-year-old, first question to me was, what's the Wi-Fi password? And that actually shocked me. Yeah, that shocked me. In terms, I just want to quickly say something about cultural things as well, because from the youngster, he was from an Asian culture. The boys, in all my experience of work, are spoilt.
Yeah,
so they don't make,
I agree with you.
Don't make the beds. It has to be the girls, the daughters, the sisters, the mothers, etc. But that really changed my perspective. I really learned something from that little child, 4-year-old, saying, what's the Wi-Fi password? He was struggling to listen to what I was teaching, but then he had to. I said, there's no Wi-Fi password. This is what we're doing. I mean, again, it's who's ever teaching it and how they handle that situation. But if that's a 4-year-old, how many other 4-year-olds who are starting school do that?
Ian, do you want to interject? Because you know I've got so much to say.
No, I'm fascinated by that, Vanessa.
But Sonia, yeah, I mean, I wanted to say, if you were in the class, right? If he asked what is the Wi-Fi passcode, did you have the time, or did you want to develop and say to him, oh, that's a question. Can I ask you why are you asking?
Why?
To understand, what's in his mentality? Because is it because, I don't know, his parents got the phone linked up to a diabetes monitoring? Maybe the mother is kind of like constantly needing to have Wi-Fi connection, because again, that's a transference from somewhere. Did you?
No, it's part of their addiction.
It is part of Denise is part of the addiction. But I took a client to get their eyes tested, and there was a child. You've probably seen this though. Children in prams, yeah, the parent puts the phone in front of them. It's not a tablet, it's a phone, and they're watching stuff on that mobile phone.
Yeah.
From that young age.
Straight line.
Yeah. So that addiction can grow from there. I mean, if you want to have problems in your household, switch the Wi-Fi off. You see how children react. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
You go on holiday, there's no Wi-Fi. Oh my God.
That's what we know, third world country, if we ain't got no Wi-Fi.
But when I look back, with my 2 nephews, my sister put boundaries in place for her 2 boys for the gaming, whatever they did on that, what games they were playing. And one of my nephews is similar to how Vanessa described her son. So he was using it and it was helping him how his brain works. Yeah. But what I've noticed now with teenagers, and I could say this, particularly teenage boys, they are using the gaming for something deeper, and I think it is an addiction. Because what I've come across is they're staying up all night. Yeah. Now this is other people I've looked. This is, I don't have a son, by the way. I don't have the young boy stays up all night gaming. Whoever they talk, I don't know who they talk to, and then they're sleeping during the day. They don't get up. And when I was talking in terms of a college where I think it was for 16 to 24-year-olds, they were too overwhelmed, the young men, when they went to college. They couldn't handle, so the anxiety. And I think there's tied into this addiction of these games. I know it can help in some neurodiverse situations, it does help, but I don't think it's proactive in the long term to have a healthy lifestyle. And again, I feel, somebody did mention it earlier, I think it was you, Sonia, is the importance of sitting at the table together.
Can I jump in? I remember Theresa May. Everyone hates Theresa, but I love Theresa a bit. So when she was the Home Secretary, she banned cat. So it's a drug, it's a chewing tobacco, what the Somalis use. And prior to that, Lord Herman and everything said it's stronger than heroin, right? So what they realised was the men got these women, they have to have 5, 6 kids, then they fly off to Amsterdam, they've got another family out there, but they can still get benefits over here. And then the women, because mental health, they were now taking cat. So they're going to all these little cafes and they're taking cat. So we did the event and everything in Brent. Thank God to the minister there. And when you don't have an addiction, it's hard to, well, we all have an addiction, but when it paralyzes your life and it paralyzes your family, what do we do? What do we do? Because we feel, even if it's my sister, not that it's a, we can't say anything to them. What's the impact you have on our community? What's the impact on our society with these addictions? Then you've got gamblers. Oh God, don't even let me give you a story about the gambling men. But at the end of the day, it has a knock-on effect on us. And the world is changing. Cost of living, it really means something. How do we move forward?
Well, I think I'm going to have to draw this to a close, guys, because it is.
You can't make me run off like that. Then you draw it to a close.
I'm going to summarize that. This was a spirited session, and thank you so much indeed for everybody who's brought up some points. I think the thing that we're going forward with here is that addiction is with us. The parents are to blame. That the only way really of preventing them is to work with the parents in order that the or those who are involved in the care of children, in order to sort of prevent situations that could become addictive, whether it be screens or whatever. But it can not only lead to addiction, but it can lead to exploitation as well. And that can be, and it can lead further than to suicide and the likes. So it's not just addiction we're dealing with here, it is life and death. And I think that's hugely important. And the more we can go out and identify those situations where addiction is a big problem and head it all off at the pass through whatever means we can, then we've got an opportunity of helping our young grow old.
So shall we do a part 2?
I think there's a part 2 in the offing here, but it'll be in a couple of months' time.
Yeah, oh no, it's not going to be straight away. Can everyone put a clap if they agree or whatever?
The
And
children
thank you
will
for the
have
people who
gone,
spoke.
Ian. The children will have gone in a few months' time.
Okay, the children are gone in a few months' time, but there will be more to follow.
And more to say. And more to say.
Okay, right. So I'm going to stop recording and say thank you very much indeed, everybody.
Thank you.